Welcome to Capital Outsider, a show about people and ideas outside the halls of power, exploring alternatives to conventional political wisdom.
Hello, I'm Bill McMIllen. My guest tonight is Jeff Gaul, Capital Region Coordinator for the Ron Paul Meetups, a supporter of Ron Paul for President campaign. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about Ron Paul, who he is and why he hasn't got a great deal of coverage, and what are his chances?
Well, not necessarily in the same order. First, truly, many experts feel that Dr. Paul has very good chances. In fact, many are anticipating that the race will end up being between him and Hillary Clinton. One of the big challenges that we've had, which has started to change, or I should say that the campaign has had, is that the mainstream media has, for whatever reasons they may have, failed to report his successes. One big success that I'd like to mention, if I may, is the fact that he has dominated the polls.
Which polls has he dominated? I haven't seen any polls that he's led in.
Well, and that's the point that I was making. For whatever reason, the media is not reporting that. The mainstream media does not report the polls. But if you go to his website, if you go to the Ron Paul website, there's a link there which shows all of the polls that have taken place. And for example, the straw polls, he has come in first many times, but typically he comes in the first three. And there are many other online polls that have been conducted that he generally dominates pretty substantially.
Pretty much the voters are dependent upon the media for knowledge about the candidates. And while they might be aware of a particular candidate, if they don't appear to be doing well in the polls that are published, doesn't that lack of perception that they have a chance to win really hurt them?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a real problem, I'd say, for any campaign. The one saving grace that the Ron Paul campaign does have is the internet. Actually, for one example, there are close to 50,000 members of the Ron Paul Meetup group across the country. By comparison, the next largest number for any of the other presidential candidates is about an eighth of that number. So right at the moment, Dr. Paul is getting the word out through the internet. There are many people that still have not heard his message, heard of his successes.
I would think that many people are not aware of what a meetup group is. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, to the best of my ability, I guess I'll say that it's an internet-based means of communicating with people. It's a means of meeting other people throughout the country, and in this case, the Ron Paul Meetup Group is again nearly 50,000 supporters of Ron Paul throughout the country that are working together in really at the grassroots level, trying to help Ron Paul get his message out through various means, banners, meetings, bumper stickers, signs. There are all kinds of activities that have taken place, rallies.
And you're the coordinator for a number of these groups here in the Capital Region, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
How many are there that you're working on?
I have 4 locally. 3 of them are newer than the Albany one, and my hopes are that we can get some more people involved. The reason I started the other meetup groups is that the Albany Meetup Group, which we now have about 117 members, isn't the best location for someone, for example, that lives in Schenectady or Burnt Hills, which is why I created the meetups in other areas.
So you've created some regional or number of groups to cover the whole region.
Yes.
And in addition to the 4 that you're sort of in charge of, are there others in the immediate area too that are Schoharie, Greene County and Hudson and that? Are there meetup groups there as well?
Yes, there are. Saratoga, Warren County, Columbia Green, Schoharie. They're pretty well, you know, scattered throughout the area, the state, and certainly the country.
Okay. I understand, Jeff, that there was a rally down at the Capitol in Albany for Ron Paul on Tuesday the 16th. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Basically, we came up with the idea of having a rally to coincide with the fact that the Ron Paul camp formally requested that he be put on the Republican primary ballot, and it was believed by the campaign that it'd be a good idea to have some media, some other presence. So we had people from all over the state of New York and even beyond.
We have some clips of that. Let's go to those right now.
Really, honestly, I expect 400 people.
The most honest and consistent politician I have ever seen in my life. The war. I don't want to see my children go off to war.
He's gonna re-legalize the Constitution, and it needs to be done.
What happened to the Constitution?
Basically, our president in charge said it was just a piece of paper, and they're not listening to what it says.
How does Ron Paul change that?
He's like one of the only people in the government right now that strictly abides by it.
Hey, Dennis Kucinich is vegan and so am I, so if anyone would like Dennis Kucinich, it would be me, but I don't because he wants to confiscate everyone's guns.
I love Ron Paul because he's a real person. He's a people's person, and he stands for everything that I believed in. I have never donated to a political campaign before, and I've already donated twice.
I'm Jim Ostrowski, and I'm working for the Ron Paul campaign to get him on the ballot in New York State. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I'm an attorney, and if I'm a little bleary-eyed, it's because I've had 3 hours of sleep the last 2 nights putting this thing together, putting Ron Paul's ballot access request on. That's absolutely amazing. Anybody from Long Island here? Anybody from the Adirondacks? Rochester? I know we have people from the Southern Tier. And this is just one of a series of rallies and gatherings around the country in recent days in support of Ron Paul.
Again, welcome everyone. This is fantastic. Some of you have driven so far, given up your full day. And also media, I thank you as well. As Jim just mentioned, the mainstream media, the national media, really has only just started noticing, or I should say mentioning Ron Paul's successes. And we're really happy to see you here, and we appreciate that. I'd like to, if I could, ask each of the Meetup leaders, coordinators, to just raise your hand, just so you're identified. We're actually scattered throughout the crowd. I ask you all, to please support these people. Any little effort will help and is needed. We have a lot of data to collect. We have phone calls to make, various functions that will help get the word out. It will help people in New York State learn about Ron. Several very active meetup groups, Columbia County, Ulster County, Schenectady, Albany County, of course, Saratoga County. If you do a search by the area that you're looking for and include Ron Paul's name and Meetup, you will find what you're looking for.
Hi, my name is Joe Salomon. I'm speaking for my generation. I was in the Second World War and then Korea. I have no pleasure in seeing our people spread all over the planet Earth. We should be defending this nation, not everybody else's nation.
I used to be ashamed of my generation because we sat around and complained. But here I see people in my generation and all generations doing something to affect change for our future. When we heard about Ron Paul and we looked at the Meetup site, my husband and I looked at each other and we thought about our children. And we said, if we don't do something now, what are we going to tell them in 20 years?
I'm Estelle Edwards, all the way from Riverhead, Eastern Long Island, Suffolk County. And I'm here because one of the big myths they're telling about Ron Paul, aside from the fact that he's not a legitimate candidate, I'm hearing, well, he doesn't have any support among minorities. Don't let them sell you that. He does.
My name's Matt, 23 years old, college graduate about a year ago. Been what you would consider, basically a liberal my whole life, and I never thought I'd be voting Republican until I heard about Ron Paul and his message.
I would like to say that this movement of freedom is reaching the young people. I'm only 17 years old. I'm here to support Ron Paul.
The question is, why are we out here? And why are we supporting Ron Paul? And why is it that so many of us have never really been political activists before, but we feel impelled to do something now? Well, absolutely. 200 years ago, we fought a revolution in this country. And the principles of that revolution were liberty and freedom for all of us, and to oppose tyranny.
I wanted to say, gentlemen talked about spontaneous. Other than the first two speakers, none of this was planned. We didn't know who was going to be here. We threw this together in 10 days. And you see the quality of the people supporting Ron Paul. You see the intensity and the enthusiasm. We get attacked for our enthusiasm. Can you believe that? For years, we've been told by the media, by the politicians, by our teachers, get involved, get involved, get involved. Go vote, go register. And now when the Ron Paul people get involved, go register, get enthusiastic, it's a problem. There's something wrong with that.
It might be, yeah. Hi, girls. Hi. Keep it going, Mama.
Say, vote for Ron Paul.
If Ron Paul were elected president, what would he do that would be different?
Well, there are many things actually that he has
what are the key
toward.
issues?
I think in my view, the number one achievement that he plans on addressing is cutting our government. There's just excessive spending. Our federal government was never meant to be this big and this wasteful. And he has a number of plans to address that.
The response to 9/11, and I guess you can't really say that in singular form because there's been numerous responses to 9/11. What might Ron Paul have done differently, and what might he do differently if he were elected president?
Well, actually, Ron Paul does have what he calls a 6-point plan to protect our borders, and one of them, of course, is to enforce the ability or lack of ability for people to be able to enter our borders illegally. Another is the visa rules. Our visa rules are, just very lax, and in fact, you mentioned 9/11. Several, if not many, of the people involved in the 9/11 tragedy that created that were traveling in the U.S. with expired visas. So, again, that's one of his primary goals is to strengthen our borders, to make our country more secure.
Are there any specifics that he's mentioned with regard to how he would strengthen the borders?
Well, I think the first thing he needs to do is to bring our troops home. From all of the other countries, we have some bases, Air Force, Army bases throughout the country that there's zero need at all. There's just no purpose whatsoever. He wants to bring our guys here, our men and women here, and have them protect us.
What about the war in Iraq?
Well, Dr. Paul has pointed out many times that that war was illegal. It was based on lies, and of course, as of right now, we've lost over 3,000 men and women of our own, American men and women. We've spent billions of dollars of our money for a war that never legally occurred. Congress never officially declared war, which means that constitutionally the war was never allowed.
Hasn't that been common practice in the past 50 years, really, to engage in battles throughout the world and adventures throughout the world without actually getting proper authorization?
Yes, actually it has.
And Ron Paul would want to reverse that, right?
Yes, certainly another, and perhaps the answer, another answer that I could have given you when you asked what he wants to address. Ron Paul is a constitutionalist. He's someone that believes in our Constitution, believes that our founding fathers had indeed incredible foresight when they created it, and it's being ignored. And Dr. Paul wants to bring America back to the Constitution, and actually that one achievement alone will address a lot of these other types of issues, illegal wars, for example.
The Patriot Act.
Yes.
What's his views with regard to that?
Well, he's certainly against the Patriot Act. He did vote against it.
What are his main opposition to it?
Well, first of all, his main opposition is big government. I mean, whenever you have government involved, you're giving something up. And of course, the Patriot Act, it gives up many things. Not only does it add red tape, does it add expense to our government, but it takes away privacy. People have a right to privacy, and the Patriot Act has led to an invasion of privacy that was just never meant to be.
One of the things that I've heard mentioned by politicians similar feelings to Ron Paul is the federal income tax. Mm-hmm. And whereas there's always a problem with how are you going to pay for the functions of government, the federal income tax seems to be an invasion on privacy. Mm-hmm. What's his position on that?
Eventually, he would like to see the IRS eliminated, and obviously we have to pay taxes in some form. But Dr. Paul feels that it's the IRS, the whole concept that the income tax is just not constitutional, and it's not logical.
Jeff, how did you become involved in the Ron Paul campaign?
Well, I actually have to say that I only heard of Ron Paul for the first time in July of this year, and the very first thing that I wanted to do was find out what he stands for, and I found that, and to do that, I really needed to know a little more history. I'm one that, I hate to admit it, but never really paid attention to the Constitution. So I've started to learn more about the Constitution, what it stands for. And then I realized I need to know more about the political system, how it was created, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, so that I can understand how we've gotten to where we are today, where instead of having a checks and balance system, we have two main forces, two political parties that really have become our government, and they're so intertwined that the typical citizen somehow ends up being pitted, we're pitted against each other, while those two governments are spending our money just recklessly. So anyway, my point is that I found that I really needed to know more about the history, and I've determined that certainly Dr. Paul is the only candidate that stands for what really America was founded on.
And most of your research has had to be done through the internet as far as the campaign itself is concerned.
100%, yes.
Yeah. I understand that some folks went down to New York City recently where Ron Paul was speaking, and I think we have a clip of that that we can show.
Tell me why you like Ron Paul so much.
I like Ron Paul because I like freedom. And Ron Paul because he'll maximize our freedom, lower our taxes, keep this country free, get out of the wars, bring all our troops home. I think he's beyond Iraq. He's one of the only politicians saying bring them all home. And really save this country from the financial bankruptcy, because they've already mortgaged our future, and really we had to act fast before there is no mortgage. Ron Paul!
The public access channel in Schenectady, New York. Yeah. Oh, well, cool. Why you guys support Ron Paul?
Why? Sure. It's the only one that's for freedom. Everybody else is bought and paid for.
Down with all the authoritarians around town.
How is someone who's interested in learning more about Ron Paul or getting in contact with you with the meetups or any other way that they can help the Ron Paul campaign? What's the best tool you can advise them on for doing so?
Well, actually, I've created my own website just to make it easier for people to find us locally. We have, again, the 4 meetup groups. My website is uniteforus.com. And /choice would lead you to a page on the website where all of my local meetups are listed, and eventually we'll have links to all of New York State meetups on the same page. Also, though, I mean, I have found a few people that don't have the ability to go online, and for those, I certainly welcome a phone call. I'm listed in the phone book, but we really need people to get involved, to stay in the loop, to learn about Dr. Paul, what his successes are, what his plans are, and we're just really looking forward to others joining our efforts.
One of the things that I think you're probably aware of, they've done enough research on Ron Paul, is that in 1988 he did run for president.
Yes.
He ran for president as a libertarian. You're optimistically forecasting that he has a chance to win the Republican nomination, and I support your optimism. But I also, as I mentioned before, that without enough coverage, even people who are aware of him and maybe like him may not support them because they like to support a winner. And so the perception is that if he can't win, he's not going to get a vote. I think my question is, if with the super primaries, or the number of primaries that are going to take place in early February, it's quite possible that a candidate will be chosen or pretty much have a solid lead in both of the major parties at that point in time. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, do you think that Ron Paul would consider taking the libertarian endorsement if it were offered to him?
I truly don't know the answer to that. I think that one of the challenges that we have here is that to become a president of the United States, you're almost required by design to run on either the Democrat or Republican Party. The reason I feel that he didn't win, and he had really perhaps he had no chance of winning when he ran the last time, was because we didn't have the internet. We have this challenge that we talked about earlier with the mainstream media. But that's changed now. That's all changed now. People are familiar with him. That familiarity is growing. He has becoming much more of a household name, and I think that once he has the first primary.
How's he done on fundraising?
Well, actually, he's done very, very well. In the third quarter, he raised a little bit over $5 million. He actually, for this quarter alone, and just in the last couple of weeks, he's raised approximately $1.8 million. He's surpassed John McCain with fundraising, and it certainly appears as though his fundraising will keep spiraling, keep doing well.
Well, I did read that he had surpassed John McCain in the second quarter for fundraising. I read that in one source, but it did not get a great deal of coverage. And that's one of the perception things, that if a person is doing well in fundraising and it's not reported, again, it creates the perception. And again, it's the mainstream media that we're referring to.
Yes.
How do you overcome that?
Well, the only way to overcome it, I believe, is through these grassroots efforts, like the Meetup groups, and actually there are many other efforts, similar efforts, including MySpace and other types of online avenues to learn about Dr. Paul. And until we get the media to properly report, the only way we're going to achieve it is through those organizations, those individuals that are involved.
Okay. So it's definitely an uphill battle then, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jeff, for being our guest. And this has been Capital Outsider. This is Bill McMillen. Thank you for listening. So it's been an exciting campaign thus far.